Welcome to Voices of Memory, a podcast where the heartbeats of history resonate beyond dusty archives and faded manuscripts. Today, we're diving into a rich tapestry of stories that have been passed down through generations, woven in the oral traditions of the Gold Coast and Ashanti regions. I'm your host, and today we'll explore not just the tales themselves, but also the voices that keep them alive. Today's episode centers around a powerful question raised by a preface in an early historical account of the Gold Coast. Can you write a nation's history without silencing the very people whose lives built it? This notion strikes at the heart of our discussion today about memory, history, and identity. We're not merely recounting events, we're exploring the emotions and traditions that shape these narratives. To set the scene, let's consider the work of Dr. Claridge, whose history has long been considered a standard account of the Gold Coast and Ashanti. But this new author seeks to supplement Claridge's work, aiming to bring in narratives and customs that were previously sidelined. It's a crucial reminder that history is not monolithic. And as we navigate through this episode, we'll hear how village elders are the guardians of sacred knowledge. They hold the keys to understanding social values, celebrated heroes, and even the tragedy that often colors their narratives. Joining me today is an expert on African oral traditions who has spent considerable time studying these communities. Can you share with us why oral traditions are invaluable? What makes them so significant in building our understanding of history?
Absolutely. Oral tradition isn't just about storytelling, it's a living lineage of cultural heritage. These narratives stretch back to eras like the reign of Napoleon, with stories ingrained in the identity of major towns conveying knowledge that can stretch hundreds of years into the past. When someone recites these tales, they're not simply passing on information, they're transferring a piece of their culture and identity.
That's fascinating. However, it seems that such memories could be fragile. The author of the preface we're discussing notes that traditional history relies heavily on the memories held by elders. How does that fragility manifest in their storytelling?
It presents a real challenge. In many communities, elders are hesitant to share sacred history with outsiders or even with younger members of their tribe. There's a deep respect for tradition. Sharing stories is an act of trust. In fact, the author shares a poignant experience of spending a month in a village before being entrusted with their history. Can you imagine the weight of that trust?
Oh, absolutely. There's something sacred about being entrusted with these histories. In one touching moment described in the preface, we hear an elder reliving a dramatic tale of bravery, and in his narration, you can feel the emotion welling up. How profound that in sharing these memories, he re-experiences that grief, identity, and heroism.
Yes, and yet there's a dichotomy here. As younger generations become disconnected from these traditions, elders fear sharing their stories will result in them being misinterpreted or disrespected. This reluctance has implications for us all. When stories aren't passed on, they risk disappearing from our collective memory.
So what happens when these oral histories begin to vanish? The preface highlights the concern of losing these narratives, stating that failing to capture them results in a drum and trumpet history of dates and battles, detailed yet devoid of the emotional and social context that truly matters.
Exactly. When the vibrant colors of personal storytelling are absent, history becomes just a list of names and events, lacking depth and meaning. It's simply not enough to rely on official records alone. We must listen closely to the voices that carry these memories, no matter how fragile.
Speaking of voices, how can we ascertain the reliability of these oral traditions? Do they stand up when examined against established historical records?
That's a great question. The author doesn't romanticize these stories. Instead, he acknowledges that oral texts can be biased or incomplete. Some stories may omit embarrassing truths or vividly portray heroic deeds. However, the beauty lies in how different communities recount the same events, sometimes with discrepancies, yet corroborating crucial details. This tells us that while there may be inconsistencies, the core truths are preserved.
Are there any examples of this corroboration that stand out?
Definitely. One fascinating example involves two neighboring communities recounting the same Ashanti military expedition. While they mixed up the names of leaders, the underlying narratives were consistent in thematic elements. This suggests a genuine remembrance rather than fabrication.
It seems bridging the gaps between oral histories and traditional records allows for a more nuanced perspective of the past. It's a cooperative dance of validity, isn't it? Engaging with both oral traditions and documented histories can enrich our understanding significantly.
Absolutely. But it's essential for historians to approach these oral histories critically. Cross-checking oral traditions against each other and verified records ensures we paint a more accurate portrait of history.
And as we delve deeper, we find ourselves in a colonial context. The author situates the narratives within the harsh realities of British administration that impacted governance in earlier times. How does that history shape our understanding of contemporary African identity?
The colonial era certainly casts a long shadow on African societies. A common thread in these narratives reflects the struggles of indigenous leaders and their relations with colonial powers. Their stories are more than records. They encapsulate experiences of resilience, pain, and the ongoing quest for identity.
It appears that the real human stories underpinning these incidents should not be overlooked. This narrative, this tapestry of human experience, is indeed intricate and meaningful.
Exactly. At the heart of it all, this exploration of memory underscores the need to preserve these cultural legacies. The preface leaves us with a poignant thought. If these voices fade, the historical record becomes one-sided, leaving us with a diminished understanding of not only Africa's history, but a loss for the world at large.
That's a powerful reminder. Listening to our elders is not just about preserving stories, it's about saving our identity as a collective people.
Thank you for a wonderful discussion today. To all our listeners, if today's episode resonated with you, we encourage you to take a moment and engage with an elder in your community. Ask them to share a story and savor the intergenerational wisdom that we stand to learn from. Let's cherish these voices before they fade.
Remember, history lives in the stories whispered through generations, waiting for us to listen. Until next time, thank you for tuning in to Voices of Memory.